Hello and welcome back. So excited that you're able to join me today for this episode, which is a subject that I absolutely love, that a lot of people tune out because they think they've heard it before when they actually haven't. So today's topic is all about niching or niching. You're going to hear me go back and forth between the two. Both are correct. Don't come at me in the comments that I said it wrong the entire time. Honestly, it could be either way. And that's not what's important about it. It's not about the pronunciation. It's about the action of niching. So here's the thing. One of the number one comments that I get from people who've completed the Content Cure, which, if you don't know, is my 6-week program to help coaches and creators learn how to confidently create content that actually converts. Because there's 3 parts to content marketing and marketing in your business. Number 1 is having confidence in yourself and in your message, being able to be on camera, to share, to speak, to do podcast episodes, whatever it may be, right? There's a confidence that you need to have, a level of self-trust that you need to have first and foremost. Then you need to have a good strategy, and that strategy then helps you create content that actually converts. And if you don't have all 3 of those, it's hard to do. Let's just put it out there as it is, right? It's hard to create content for your business when you are stuck in shame and doubt and worry and anxiety about how things are going to be perceived through your content. It's really hard to create content up against that wall. On the other side of that, maybe you create content all the time, but it's not converting. And you're like, I know I need to create content for my business, but why is nothing coming from it? And that's where you need the strategy, right? You need to have a strategy in place to help you create content that actually converts for your ideal audience. But if you have the strategy and you have the confidence and it's not converting, then you need to have the ability to tweak and to pivot and see in your strategy where you need to adjust. So you have to have all 3, right? And in the Content Cure, we go over all 3, starting with confidence and self-trust and loving who you are, to building your message, to building out your audience, to understanding how to communicate with them, to pillars, topics, all of those other pieces, and then helping you actually create content that converts. Now, this isn't a pitch for the Content Cure, but this is an important concept to understand for the Content Cure, because after a Content Cure round has finished, which we actually just finished one last week, and the next one is coming up on April 4th, after we finish a round of the Content Cure, I do videos with the people who participated. And I ask them questions about their experience in the Content Cure, the results that they got, where they were before they started, where they're at now, the usual. And the number one thing that I get told is, it's so interesting. I've learned about niching, or I've learned about topics and pillars and subtopics before, but I never have had someone explain it to me the way that you do, in a way that I actually could apply it, in a way that I understood it, I got it, it was applicable to my business, in a way that I could take action on it. And that's why this episode is so important, because I guarantee that as a coach, as a business owner, as a creator, you've probably heard about niching. Maybe you're here at this podcast episode because I gave a presentation, gave a speech about riches in the niches and how important it is to niche down. But here's where it's different. I hear people say, don't niche down until you know your business. And then I hear other people say, you should niche down right away so you're speaking to the right person. They're talking in different types of niching, different types. There's a type that is niching down your products and your services, and there's a type that is niching down your audience. I don't believe in niching down your products and your services. But in most cases that I have seen, when you hear someone who's a marketing expert come and say, oh, you don't want to niche down, they're talking about products and services. On the other side, there's niching down your audience, which is super important and I highly recommend and agree with. Now, most high level things, I'm going to give you like a quick rundown of, I have a whole hour and a half training, complete week and module dedicated to finding your audience in the content here. But the long and the short of it is, there are 3 ways, 3 segments of niching your audience. And you'll hear people talk about the demographics, right? And those are pretty black and white, which is funny after last week's episode about black and white thinking. But those are pretty black and white, right? It's, who am I speaking to? Is it a male? Is it a female? Or is it, gender fluid, right? But it's pretty like, you know who you're talking to, or you're talking to both, and that's okay. What is their typical age range? What is their typical income? Like, it's pretty self-explanatory. And here's the thing. That stuff is helpful. I definitely go over it when I'm doing my niching exercises and when I'm helping other people niche down for their audience, because the person who is 18 has completely different life goals and life situations that they're working through than someone who's 65, right? Your brain is not the same, right? I don't even think the same. I am not anywhere near the same person I was when I was 18 that I am now, or that I even was at 25 that I am now at 33, right? It's so different. So even just knowing age ranges is a helpful yet black and white demographic type of thing. But that's only one part of niching down your audience. The second part is psychographics. So you've probably heard or seen exercises that are like, where do they hang out online? What brands do they shop for? Like those types of things. That kind of falls in psychographics. But psychographics are also things like, what are the top apps that they use? And that's not because we're going to do all these things on these apps. That's an understanding of where they spend their time. What type of content do they consume? What is their learning style? Because if you have an audience who has a primary learning style of auditory, hello, a podcast is a great idea for you in your content marketing. But if they are mostly visual, then doing more visual representations or videos in your marketing is going to make sense, right? So it's knowing the psychographics, it's knowing the details of these individuals. And I even love psychographics because there's so many coaches out there, and maybe you are one of them, that host retreats. Do you know if your audience prefers mountains, desert, or beach? So I'm the type of person that I'm actually in a mastermind where they host retreats. And one of the retreats has been up in mountains and around a lake, and I attended. The next one that's coming up is on a beach in Florida, and I'm just not a beach person. I know, I'm not the biggest fan. And so I'm like, I'm okay. I'm going to pass on that one. Knowing my ideal audience and knowing what I like, right, can help me cultivate retreats if I so wanted to do them, if I wanted to make them, to make sense for my audience, right? And I also know in that mastermind group, I'm actually the minority. There is, out of the 50 girls that are in it, 50 women that are in it, 40 of them all like beaches, and they're all ocean people. So it makes sense to host the retreat there, right? But that's a psychographic piece. It's an next level understanding of your audience. But the third part is what really matters. Those other pieces are nice. They are complementary. And usually when you see someone talking about niching down the audience, right? If we've gotten away from like the product niching and the business niching piece and actually just focused on the audience, usually you get a focus on psychographics and demographics, because those are easy. And they're complementary. They're helpful. But what's really important is knowing what your audience cares about. What are their dreams? What are their ambitions? What are their aspirations? What is keeping them back from that? What actions are they taking that are helping them, and what actions are they taking, whether consciously or subconsciously, that aren't helping them reach those goals? What are they motivated by? When you can start to speak to those, when you can speak to their play points, which are aspirational, inspirational, motivational, this is amazing, this is where I'm going, and their pain points, this is what is keeping me back from that, from the aspiration, their play points and their pain points. When you can identify those, that is when you can hone in and understand your audience, which means then you can speak to them, engage with them, connect with them, and ultimately help them, if your services and products are able to do so. So going back to what I mentioned before about the 3 pillars of the content cure, can you see why you could have a strategy of, I'm going to do this on TikTok and I have these hooks and I have all these things and I'm confident in myself, but it's not converting? Well, you need to go back to the strategy and come in and talk about, let's focus on niching on your audience. Who are you speaking to? One of the other things that I often see is a resistance to niching down, right? You'll see people that are like, well, I have my demographics, I have my psychographics. And it's like, okay, well, like, what do they actually care about? And it's like, well, I want to help all these people. And it's like, I know that you absolutely can. But when you say, hey, are you burnt out? Are you stressed out? Are you frustrated? Are you burnt out, stressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed? Right? You're like, yeah, I am. But that's as far as it goes. But if I'm able to say, are you burnt out from, and I'm going to use content because it's content cure, right? And that's the whole topic of this episode is niching for your audience, right? So my audience, if I say, hey, are you burnt out from feeling like you're doing nothing but creating content? It's not your favorite part of your business. You love the creativity side of it, but you're burnt out because you feel like you're creating all this content. You're putting your heart and your soul into it, and it's not getting you anywhere. You have minimal engagement, you're not getting any clients from it, and you are just burnt out from the grind of creating content just for creating content's sake. Are you frustrated that you don't know what to talk about when you get in front of the camera? Are you frustrated that you spend hours in agony writing a single Facebook post or an Instagram caption because you want it to be perfect, and you're frustrated because you just don't feel like it's quite there? Are you overwhelmed by all the strategies that are coming at you, all the things you should do in your business and in your content marketing, all the platforms that you should be on, right? Are you overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information and not knowing which way to turn and which way is the right way for your business? That is very different than, hey, are you burnt out, overwhelmed, and frustrated? Very different. You could be burnt out, overwhelmed, and frustrated because you've been running the kids back and forth, because you're trying to manage your business and a day job and the lives of the kids, and it snowed, and so somebody's got to go out and shovel the snow, right? Clear the driveway. That's a completely different overwhelmed, burnt out, frustrated than overwhelmed, burnt out, frustrated in your content. Granted, you could be both, but if I just said, hey, are you burnt out, overwhelmed, and frustrated? Yeah, who isn't? And then your clients move on. So knowing, and obviously those are some pain points. I like to also do to the play points as well. So are you motivated to do X, Y, and Z? Do you long for this, right? You can speak to that. And you don't even have to say it. You don't even have to ask it in questions. You can share stories. I once couldn't even get in front of the camera because I was so scared about what somebody would say about me and my business. I was so frustrated that I couldn't step in front of the camera and actually speak to my audience. And I knew I could help them, but I couldn't get myself there because I didn't have a level of self-trust. Right? You can talk about all of those things, but you have to know your audience to be able to do that. And niching down your audience is how you do that. That's how you speak to those things that really, truly matter. So, coming back to all of this, there are those 3 areas that the content cure itself talks about. But today I specifically wanted to talk about niching for your audience because it makes such a difference in your content marketing. When you can identify a person that represents a group of people, right? Because I know that I'm not the only one, and the people I work with are not the only ones who have been frustrated by not knowing what to say on camera and burnt out from creating content and it going nowhere. Like, we're not the only ones, right? But if I can speak to you, because I know that's what you're struggling with, now we can connect together. And I can potentially help you in my business and help your business soar. Right? And so if you're listening to this episode, which you are, right? Here we are, chances are you're a coach or a creator. And knowing how to speak to your audience makes sense. And so it's important to niche down to that. But going back to the number one thing that everyone says when they've completed the content cure is, I've heard this before, but I've never heard it in this way. I never had it taught to me this way. I never had it done in a way that I could actually take action on. And so that is why I wanted to come here today and share with you just, like I said, very brief, but quick, deep dive into the importance of niching for your audience so that you can speak to them. Because niching down and speaking to your audience is actually an exercise in empathy. If I see you walking down the street and you trip, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? But then I've moved on. But if you're my best friend and I see you walking down the street and I'm waving hi and you trip, I'm like, oh my gosh, or like, you okay? Oh yeah, you weren't yeah, I saw that thing, you weren't paying attention, or your shoe scuffed. You know, like, you take it to these next levels because you care. And caring about, knowing about your audience is so important to be able to connect and to take your content to those next levels. And additionally, within that, when I can have a conversation with you through my content, when you feel seen because I actually see you, that is when the magic happens. That is when marketing actually converts and takes things to these next levels. So that said, I just felt really called because I just finished up some more conversations with Content Cure alumni now, and that came up again, like, oh, I learned this before, but I hadn't learned it this way. And niching is one of the top ones for that. Oh, I've worked with coaches and they said, oh, just get your demographics and your psychographics. Sometimes they don't even go psychographics far, and you'll have your audience. It's like, no, that won't work. Take the time to understand, to empathize with your audience, because then you can speak to them. And think about anybody who is a marketer that you love their brand, you love their business, maybe you've purchased from them. They speak to you. Not to this general broad, hey, I can help you do this, but you don't know, they're not saying like, hey, are you feeling this way because of this? Let's work through that together. It's a partnership. Let's walk side by side instead of speaking at you and hoping that it works. So if you're a coach, I just wanted to be able to share that with you today. And since this is a very big Content Cure type of conversation, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about the Content Cure. So the Content Cure is, as I mentioned earlier, a 6-week program specifically designed and dedicated to helping coaches and creators learn how to create content that converts and how to do it with confidence. Because I don't want anybody to sit down in front of the camera or sit down in front of the computer and be like, I don't know what to say, right? Have a game plan in place. And I don't want you to be worried about saying or And if you listen to this podcast, I say and I say and I say and the big one for me is I go and and you're going to catch it from here on out. But the thing is it's more important to share the message. And I try to keep those to a minimum. And in fact, I don't edit the audio, so you'll hear it now all the time, I'm sure. But I can't let that stop me. I have a mission. I have a message to share. And I don't want you, who also has a mission, who also has a message to share, feel stuck in a lack of confidence in yourself, a lack of confidence in how you can convey that message. So we talk a lot about consistent iteration in the course, and that really helps with that. But I don't want you to sit there and go, I don't know what to post anymore, to not know your audience, to not dive deep into setting yourself up for success, right? Creating a content strategy that now you know what to do, you know what to say, you know how to come to your audience, you know how to trust your intuition, you know how to trust yourself, and it all comes together. And like I said, it is pure magic. So the Content Cure, like I mentioned, 6 modules, going through all of that. We go all the way from consistent iteration and self-love and trust in yourself to procrastination habits and how to break through those, limiting beliefs and how to break through those. Then we go to understanding your mission and your message. We also have branding discussions as well. Then we talk about your audience, my favorite. We dive into your audience. Then, knowing that information, we start to identify your pillars, your topics, your subtopics, so that you are equipped with content ready to go at a moment's notice. Then we talk about how to generate TLC, which is traffic, leads, and clients. How to use your content to help get a broader audience, still niche down though, right? But a broader audience to then have them come as leads so that you can continue to engage with them, discuss with them, and then have them eventually become clients. And then we also talk about personal management and percentages of time spent in your business so that you are set up for success and you're not spending all your time marketing and no time in your business, but also no time in your business or also all time in your business and no time marketing your business, right? Because I see a lot of coaches have waves, right? You go all in your marketing to launch a product and then you focus solely on delivering that product, which is amazing, but delivering that product and then you got to come back up and launch again and you got to go up and down. And it's like, how do we maintain this consistently? And there's certain percentages of work to be done throughout your week that you can, if you can lean into that, it'll transform everything. So we kind of go the full gamut. We go all the way from the confidence and charisma on camera and self-trust and self-love and how to do that to actual strategy, niching down to your audience, understanding the content to create and having the confidence to actually create it, all the way to conversions and then taking your business and optimizing all of that to the next levels. So it is a super awesome course, if I do say so myself, and I absolutely adore and love teaching it because there's not been a single person who has not gone through this course and not come out on the other side completely transformed. And I love, one of the greatest joys of my life is watching their content before, during, and after they take the course. So that said, Content Cure, it's a 6-week program. And if you feel so called to do it and you want to dive deeper, even just on this episode, deeper into niching on your audience, I highly recommend that you check it out. You can go to contentcure.taylorproctor.com to get all the details and see everything that it entails. Our next round is starting on April 4th, so be sure to go check it out. And if you purchase today, or in between, I should say, the time between now and April 4th, you'll get a couple of extra bonuses as well. So that said, though, I hope that this episode has helped. I hope that you understand more about niching and the importance of it in your content marketing and your audience. And if nothing else, that you got to learn it in a different way that hopefully can resonate with you differently, that you can take action on. So that said, I'm going to leave you with this today. And if you know somebody else who could also benefit from the conversation that you and I had today, be sure to share this episode with them or even rate, review, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff so that you can catch more episodes like this in the future. And also you can help other people find it through leaving like a review. So that said, have a wonderful day. And remember, you can create with confidence.